Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Become an Expert at Report Formats. I am Alora from SpinifexIT. In a moment, I'll be joined by our senior consultant, Tony Vitelli. Before we get started, I'd like to go over a few items so you know how to participate in today's event. To start with, on your left is the GoToWebinar viewer in which you will see the presentation, and onto your right is the control panel of the GoToWebinar, which you can use to ask questions and select audio mode. You're listening in using your computer speaker system by default. If you would prefer to join over the phone, just select telephone in the audio pane and the dial-in information will be displayed. You will have the opportunity to submit text questions to today's presenter by typing your questions into the questions pane of the control panel. You may send in your questions at any time during the presentation. We will collect these and address them during the Q&A session at the end of today's presentation. Time permitting, we will answer all your questions. However, in the case that we run out of time, we will reply via email. Lastly, if you know someone who should have attended the webinar, or if you are looking for the recording yourself, an on-demand version of the webinar will be available approximately 48 hours after the webcast and can be accessed at www.spinifexit.com/video. We will also send the link to the recording to all registered attendees. So that pretty much sums up our housekeeping. I will now hand you over to Tony, who will give you a full presentation of our topic today.
Thank you, Lala. Welcome, everybody. I believe we've got a pretty big number of people from various locations, not only in Australia, but also overseas. So welcome, everybody. Today's agenda, very quickly, I'll just give you a bit of background about this webinar and what it led to it. Also, I'll cover a bit of using standard SAP to extract the Easy Reporter reports. I'm going to go through the different file formats that are available through output to email and output to file. Linking in some report formats to variants and go through why we believe that is probably the best way. We're going to have a closer look at the .xlsx output format, which is a relatively new one, and some options there. And as Lala indicated, we'll finish off with any questions at the end. So very quickly, Easy Reporter. When Easy Reporter is executed on the screen, it uses a type of format called ALV, or ABAP List Viewer. This ALV provides a grid-type view of the report output, and on screen there are a number of functions that you can use, including sorting, filtering, totals and subtotals, and changing the order of the columns on the report. You can also hide any unwanted columns from the report. So this is the inheritance of the SAP viewer that we have when we run reports on our screen. However, it's important to note that the design of the report doesn't change. It's just what the users see on screen only. So if you are running reports in the foreground, they can be extracted using the ALV toolbar that appears when you run it in the foreground on the screen. And that allows you to output to local file and has options to output to spreadsheet, whether it be in a HTML version or the xlsx formats. And this can easily be accessed from the screen itself. Here's an example of using the output to spreadsheet option. And you can see it's just on the toolbar on the foreground processing, and you can choose the type of formats you want, and the ones highlighted is the xlsx format. And I'll just jump in on the screen in a minute. It just gives you an option of where do you want to save it, normally a directory or some sort of path on your desktop or even on your laptop. And this is a particular format of xlsx, and you can see that it stores or keeps any subtotaling options that you may have on that report. Okay. So, as far as a start, reports in Easy Reporter can be executed, can be run in the foreground, and just use standard SAP if you want to extract it. So just going to jump online just to make sure that everyone's pretty clear on what I'm referring to. Just open up an SAP session. Easy Reporter. Identify your reports. Once you've identified your reports, just do your normal thing like how you go about running reports. Choosing variants if you have to. Putting your parameters, and then just executing. Okay. So, what options you have? You've got everything that's standard SAP. That is, you've got your toolbar that allows you to download spreadsheet, local file. A lot of people use local file as a download. Put in a bit of text. Where do you want to generate it? Outputs the report. Access the file. 2 seconds. And there's the extract. Open it up, and you've got your data set. Pretty standard. Probably not the nicest looking output. There are probably nicer ones, even as standard SAP delivered ones, but there's an output option if you need to. Okay. However, I did indicate there are probably better ones to use, and again, standard toolbar, the spreadsheet option, and the one I indicated earlier. You've got HTML if you want to, but also you've got the choice of selecting the xlsx format in a drop-down. And again, just applying a file name and downloading it. Probably opens up into what is probably the most preferred option amongst most of clients. And it's pretty standard, SAP delivered, nice list, report, names, information, so on and so on. Okay. Now the toolbar not only allows you to extract it, like we've just done, but also allows you to, if you wish, you can change the sort order. You could also use filtering as part of that ALV format that you have. Okay. And this is all done on screen, and you can download it after that if you wish to, by the methods I just showed you. So as far as the extract of data, whether it be straight output to file or a spreadsheet, or changing the display and then accessing or the spreadsheet, this is pretty much standard SAP. Also, if you need to, you could also change the layout itself and use standard SAP layouts if you wish, and that's all available. Okay, so that's standard, and hopefully most of you are using at least one or many of those options in your current work practices. We're here because what we want to do is to see if we can automate a lot of this. So the automation component of it is that ER does have a number of options available to either output to email and output to file that allows you, with different types of formats, to make the whole process a little bit more efficient. And you can use in Easy Reporter the option of modify to output. Okay. The options you have as far as extracting data is CSV, Excel, tab delimited, text files, formatted Excels. You can even write XML code or PDF and the XLS format as well, SLSX format. In addition, output to file offers us a little bit of added functionality where we can actually split up the reports into different folders, if you wish. So if you've got a denominator in your report and you want a folder to be split up in multiple folders, you can do that as well. Even reports themselves can be split up into a particular item or identifier from the report itself as well. And I'll go through a couple of examples of these as well. In addition, one option that you may want to consider, and we'll go through some of the formats, but formatted Excel. Formatted Excel offers you a little bit added functionality in relation to a straightforward Excel. It gives us the opportunity to be able to split a workbook into multiple sheets, and each multiple sheet can have a particular identifier flagged, and that identifier then will be split, give us the sheets with the data set that relates to that identifier. Here's an example of a payroll report, and the payroll report is split up into multiple sheets based on the identifier of wage type. And we'll go through an example of this in a minute. So summary with multiple sheets across the bottom. Okay, just jump back into SAP. So I might just run a different report on this one. So just choosing a bit of a variant, just pre-populate some parameters. 2 seconds. Just running a headcount report, and before I run it, like I said, to make life a little bit easier so that you're not spending time extracting, linking it to an email or to a file just makes the whole process a little bit more efficient. I'm just going to, you'll see that both under output to email has those type of attachments that I indicated earlier, as well as output to file. And I'm just going to set one up. Just send it to a directory. My screen resolution is too big. Just choose any format. And next time you execute a report, whether it be foreground or background. Output, as indicated across the bottom, will be sent out. So all I'm doing is automating the process that you would probably normally do, running it in foreground and manually extracting it, just making it all part of a smooth process. So the options I'm indicating is that under output to file, not only can you choose a type of format, but you can be a little bit dynamic and separate or create multiple folders based on an identifier. We have a tab here that identifies all the fields that are currently on our report. So we can identify any field we like, and that's just pick payroll area, and we need that field name that is the reference. In this case, it's xx003. As far as the file name is concerned, all we really need to do is put that identifier as a field name, and what we could do is just put an underscore. That will be fine, and execute. And we may be prompted a number of times based on the different payroll areas that it finds, because it's essentially creating folders for the different payroll areas. In this case, there's the identifier I selected. I'm sure there's enough there. Once it's complete, we can have a look at our folder, and here we are. And we have basically a folder that's been created for every payroll area, which is the identifier on our report. And accessing that one, we can see our extract, and that extract itself has only the data sets that relate to that identifier. So very quickly, what started with one huge report, and if I had to do it manually, I would have to split it out. I now can dynamically create that folder structure as well as the data set or the Excel sheet within that folder. In addition, not only can you create folders, but as far as file names are concerned, you can create multiple files, in this case Excel, each representing a different set of data from your report. Again, I'll use the field that we used before, which was the payroll area field. So all I'll do is this. Oops, just 2 seconds. Just by placing in that field name that I grabbed from the report itself. And again, executing it. So just streamlining the whole approach to extracting data, whether you needed to extract it as a particular format, but also giving you the capability of not only extracting it, but to also put some functions where you can create multiple folders. And in this case here, we're going to create multiple spreadsheets, each using a specific identifier from the report. And there they all are. A file per identifier, in this case payroll area, and again opening up that extract, you'll see that the data sets itself just purely relates to the identifier that I've selected. And all I've done this is in using a standard Excel, but you can use it with the other formats as well. So, extracting data, as far as formats are concerned, there's lots of different formats. You can extract it using email or output to file. Output to file does offer some dynamic structures where you can create multiple folders based on an identifier from your report, or even multiple sheets, worksheets. And that's just using the standard Excel option. I might just finish by going through and showing you the formatted Excel. So, formatted Excel is one of our predefined formats. And what formatted Excel offers us is a settings option that allows us to create one workbook, but have that workbook contain not only a summary, but also multiple sheets, and multiple sheets based on a particular identifier, again, from the report itself. So there's a settings tab. Just follow the settings tab and you need to select what the identifier is that you're going to use to create these multiple sheets. Again, I'll just use the constant payroll area item. And executing that. Our formatted Excel has been delivered. Accessing formatted Excel, tab 2, number 2. Here we have the report itself. It is summarized by the identifier that I've selected, which in this case is payroll area. However, you'll notice across the bottom highlights a separate sheet for every of the payroll areas that it has created or identified within the report. So in this case, what started with potentially something that I would have had to do externally in Excel, I've now been able to create it as an automated function and have it delivered or directed into whatever file path that I needed it. Also available on email, so for distribution for external, or whether it's being outside of your area, or whether it's being external to your business, this can also be linked in to an email. Okay. So there's probably just one more step that we probably need to cover, is that it's great that we can extract our data into different formats. We can use standard SAP if we wish, or even if we want to use our output to email or output to file options with all the different formats. But how can we make it even more efficient? Well, variants. SAP, as well as the Easy Reporter, has variants, and it is important to note that these the layouts that we are using, as well as the settings associated with emails and the output to file, can all be saved as a variant. And what the options there are is that once they're saved, those variants can be then triggered, and therefore just the report can be processed without changing any parameters or re-entering all those settings of emails or files or the type of formats. And then the report can be run, and of course, not only can it be run, it could also be scheduled. Okay. So what you could do is use one report and have it distributed or have multiple variants, each doing a slightly different option on each of those variants. They can include output, but it also can include different types of formats. And what the recommendation is that if you are going to use that process, please consider using some descriptive, because it adds lots of value to the organisation if people who are running the reports are quite clear and understanding on what that report is not only going to do, but as a variant, what it's actually going to achieve. So an example there is just to highlight in the description exactly what that area is doing and whether it's a download or even an email to somebody. Just going to jump online. So here's our report, and before I had some settings. Here's my settings that I had formatted Excel, and it's just going to a directory on my file. So what I'd like to do is maybe save it as a variant. Okay, well it's my demo variant, but it's also going to be saving my variant. I might want to just create a new one. And under the report variants, there it is there. So I know that any time I come and tag this variant, and that is definitely going to tell me that it's going to be as a Excel, formatted Excel, and it's going to be by payroll area. Very great, very good descriptives, so that the people using it clearly understand what it's going to do. Like I said, those variants can be linked to whether you run a job in the background or foreground, and definitely for scheduling purposes, very good to use variants. In a previous webinar, we explained how variants can also be updated dynamically, so very good that you can use them for that sort of purpose. I just want to finish by having a closer look at the .xls output format options. This is, again, one of our extended format options or types that are available now. It is a text-based file. It is compressed and much smaller than most of the other options that are available in Easy Reporter. The output styles can be maintained, and we'll go through that as well. The report can offer drill-down aspects, very similar to the standard SAP, and also it's a true subtotal functionality, and can be included in emails, whether it be run in foreground or background reports. So standard Excel, standard format, the ALV sample that you get on screen, is then converted to an Excel format within the output options within Easy Reporter. Contained in that output options, you'll be able to see the standard options of drill down available to you right down to the data set. And as I indicated, the header, subtotal and total colors that we deliver can be customized by the client. Just jump in. Again, we could use our report, and I'm just going to use output to file, and the option I'm talking about is our xlsx. I'll just jump that to number 3. And executing it. apologies there. So it's the report comes out in a subtotal format if the report is being designed that way, still giving you the capability of accessing or drilling down into any component and having a look at the data set itself. And as I indicated, the color set that is associated with the header, the individual subtotals, and the total itself can be all customized by the client through the configuration tables within Easy Reporter. Okay. So hopefully you've got a better appreciation of what can be achieved with the different formats that are available. You have, of course, and you're probably using the standard SAP extracts or extract options of the toolbar. However, to optimize the use of Easy Reporter, you've got access to the output options of email and output to file. And output to file offers you a lot of dynamic options like creating multiple format folders, also multiple Excel sheets. And in addition to that, keep in mind that to support all that, linking to variants and having variants available for users to quickly process based on a defined description makes life a little bit more quicker and more efficient in the areas. I might open it up to questions now.
All right, thank you, Tony. We're now going to begin answering questions submitted to us. As a reminder to everyone, you can still submit questions through the questions pane in your attendee control panel. Tony, the first question is, can the formatted Excel option be used on email? Is there any limitations?
Yes, so output to formatted Excel definitely can be used, whether it be output to file or output to email. Look, there's probably one limitation that comes to mind, and there's not a lot. Formatted Excel is a little bit resource hungry. The reason for that, if you have a look at the output of a formatted Excel, it does have a little bit of extra conditioning applied to it, a little bit of extra formatting applied to it, including header detail, but also color. So as a result, I suppose the size of the Excel can be quite big. Now, where we've heard limitations is that when trying to email it, it is hitting email limits at the client site. Yeah. So if you believe that there are hitting some email limits at client site, there are options even within the product itself, even for formatted Excel, where you can compress it or zip it. And that might assist you in getting those files out by email. Is there anything else? Is there any other questions?
Sorry, Tony, I wasn't muted for a while, sorry. Another one here is that when using the output email option, if I wish to separate the data in a separate worksheet, considering a business unit field, can I use the same field to also email the separate worksheet to various recipients?
I think output to email, that is not available, because you need to identify in each email the options you want. However, With output to email, you do have the option under email recipients to identify different recipients who then can see or receive different components of the file. So if I want a recipient for payroll QF, payroll area QF, to go to Jane Smith, I can choose the payroll area here to include equal to QM and identify who's to receive that one there. And I can insert an additional line for an alternative person to receive a different payroll area. What it uses is still the option of the format that you've selected in the first area, whether it be a tab delimited Excel, a formatted Excel, or the xlsx format, which is at the bottom. Is there any other questions?
There's another one, Tony. Can you briefly show the email version or how to set it up?
Of the formatted Excel?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So I'm just using a tab delimited, test 4. So I can identify different people. So what I've got here is I've got two different recipients, each receiving from the file the identifier, and in this case, what is XX03? Well, we're sticking with the payroll area. So with each payroll area, one is to receive the QF payroll area, one is to receive the QM area. And I've just selected a tab delimited. It doesn't matter which format it is, but it's just a tab delimited. And I'll quickly just execute it. Okay, so we've should have some emails shooting off. I'll just open up SAP mailbox. There we have two emails that have been set up. John Smith with an attachment. And his attachment relates to the payroll area of QM. And I'll just go back. And my attachment there is restricted to the QF payroll area. So very quickly, you can see that. Go ahead. Next question.
All right. Tony, are we able to insert the end date of report into the file name?
Into the file name?
The end date of the report.
That's a good question. Into the file name. Definitely as a output to file, that's possible, because even on the output to file, The file name itself is just a field from your report. So if on your report you've got a end date on that report, we can put it in. Just for example, date of birth is just a date. So date of birth field, I should say, is MADOB. I could put MADOB, that field, and will be inserted in the file name. Good question on the output to email. I'm not too sure, so I'll take that off board and follow that up.
All right. Just a couple more questions, Tony, before we end. This one is that for example, if the file is too big, can total report output be split into multiple file outputs?
Dynamically, if it's too big, there's no function that allows us to investigate the file size before it goes out. So, as I indicated before, if it by chance it is too big, I think the easiest thing is to split it up. If it's an output to file, you've got that splitting up of file based on folders or an identifier. If you are having limitations, the best thing I could suggest is try that compressed view. But at the end of the day, it's all very much dependent on the email server that is at the client, whether they have a limitation. There may be some others may not be. Be also in mind that when accessing the SAP mailbox, like I've got on the screen at the moment, you could still download the extract even if it's too big to be sent out by email. You can still download it here if you need to.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Just one more. If the file already exists and you are exporting a file with the same name, will the user receive a prompt to overwrite it, or it will automatically do so?
You might have to just repeat that question. I'm sorry, you just cut out a little bit.
Sorry. If ever a file already exists and you are exporting a file with the same name, will the user receive a prompt or a notification to overwrite it, or will it just do so?
Good question. Good question. I can't exactly remember if there is a prompt or not, so I might just take that offline as well and cover that as well.
All right. I think the rest of the questions we can just answer it via email. So I think that concludes our webinar for today, Tony. For those of you who have additional questions, or if ever you would like to arrange for a more in-depth or detailed session regarding our solutions, you can email us at info@spinifexit.com. You can also check out our upcoming webinars and events by visiting our page at www.spinifexit.com. We would like to thank everyone for taking the time out of their busy schedule to attend this webinar. And thank you to Tony for sharing this information to us. And thank you and have a good day,
everybody
everyone.
for attending.